Hey everyone, it's the Grumpy Meeple, and I am back again with the first in my what I hope to becomes a series of gameplay videos done through Tabletop Simulator. And in this video, I'm going to show you the basics of how TTS works and how to set up a game, and then we're going to play Adventure Tactics Domianne's Tower. So let's get right into it. This is kind of the main page. To start a game, it's particularly a solo game, all you do is click Create, Single Player, find the game. I already have some saves for Adventure Tactics because I already launched it. So you have to kind of get the game from the workshop first and download it and then load it in Tabletop Simulator. So you can see here I have a bunch of different games that I could play. I haven't done too much TTSing, but I mostly play games that aren't out yet to determine if I want to get them, especially stuff on Kickstarter. Like, this is what sold me on Massive Darkness 2. I have everything for Massive Darkness 1, and I liked it, and I did play it. I don't know that I played it enough to warrant spending like $300 on it, but I did like it, and so I was a little on the fence with Massive Darkness 2, and I came in here to try and see if I really wanted it, and playing it and seeing the class system, I decided that I very much did. Same thing with Arena the Contest. I've talked about this before, about how basically TTS led me to spend close to $700 on that game because I just bought everything that they make. And so today we're going to check out Adventure Tactics and see if this game is kind of up my alley and hopefully see if it's up your alley. So we just choose the save and then we load it. And you can see I've kind of set this up already. So, one thing I'm going to note about TTS is that the quality of the mod is going to vary based off of kind of the effort put into it. This is a pretty good mod where everything is kind of laid out for you. I've done some cleanup of this. I've removed some characters that I know I'm not going to play with, etc. But this is basically the way it came. And this is a pretty nice setup. The books are all easily accessible and you can just flip through them. So this is the rule book and this is the campaign book. And you've got player mats. They added these. This took me a second to figure out because I hadn't seen it before, but they added these little HP buttons that you can click to track hit points. For some reason, that one doesn't want to click. Oh, there you go. So you got to kind of find the exact spot so you can add or subtract hit points from your baddies and yourself. And then they laid out all the cards and all the dice and everything. Including all the kind of character classes that you can upgrade to. So this is a really nice mod. And you can see it's pretty cool because it's replicating like a 3D environment. And you can really, you can zoom right into the bottom of the board. Controlling it is a lot easier than I thought it would be. So basically, you just have to kind of wrap your head around the fact that WASD moves like your body, if you want to call it that. So this is me like walking around the room, right? So that's WASD. And then your mouse pivots your head, basically. So just think about it like this controls your body, the mouse controls your head. Right-clicking and holding. And so you're zooming in and out, and you're grabbing cards, and you've got a couple of, when you're first starting out, you can never go wrong by just selecting something and then right-clicking on it, because it'll show you basically everything you can do with it. So a couple things to note. Different mods will have different setups. Like this one, to change the pages in the book, as far as I can tell so far, you have to change the state of the objects. You can see here it's 24 pages long and I'm currently on page 10, so I want to flip to page 11 And some mods will have like a little flip button built into them where you can just click back and forth. Some will let you pin the book to the right-hand side of the screen so that you can see it while you play. As far as I can tell, this one doesn't. You just right-click it and then change the state. So I'm going to flip it to page 11. And then you see I can just kind of zoom in and read the book. And I'm filming this in 4K and playing in 4K, so this should be pretty good quality. I'm hoping that the quality of it is coming through in terms of the render. Some of this stuff is probably dependent on the machine that you're doing this on. I have a beast of a computer that I custom built, so it doesn't have any problems running a fucking board game simulator. But your results will vary. If you're on a tiny laptop, you might see some chug. You depending on the kind of graphics card you have, you might not be able to run it at this resolution or with this quality level, but you can change all that stuff in here. A couple of the key things I'm just going to point out, you just hold and left click to move stuff around. It has you can see it kind of has some physics to it. So like when you're rolling dice, I like to just shake them up and then let them rip, although I'm going to add a dice tray to this, I think. One thing I like to do is a couple of nice things that you need to know about is if you right click on it or just hover over and click R, you can shuffle a deck. And so this is the initiative deck, and so it needs to be laid out. And so even though I'm kind of doing this out of order for the game, I'm just going to go ahead and do it. I'm going to click on it, and then I'm just going to spread. Boop. So that's the initiative order for this game, for this round. So you see Roberta's going to go first, then the bad guys, and then Elwyn, Quill, and then the bad guys again. Beyond that, you can hold down Shift and mass select, and then I think if you press G, it will regroup everything, and then if you press F, it'll flip it, so I can put them all back together without having to kind of stack them on top of each other by hand. What are some other... Oh yeah, one of the things I love the most about TTS is the ability to clone stuff and make multiple copies of certain cards. So I don't know if it will come up in this game, but there are games where, like Arena of the Contest is a really good example, and from what I understand, it was really annoying in the first edition where you'll have a card that affects another character, like a buff, and in the regular tabletop version of the game, you only have one copy of that card. So you either have to give it to the other guy, in which case you don't have it, and you don't even know what your own buff is doing to him, or you have to have it yourself and then remind the other player. Well, in TTS, you just basically can select any card and just click clone, and then just left click and you can make a copy of it. And you can do this as many times as you want. You can also alter the state of objects, like change the colors and such. Some of this stuff will be locked by default, so this is one thing that can be really frustrating if you don't realize it, is that this toggles can be really powerful, because if something is locked, or if it's set to automatically like snap to the grid, like the whole thing is a giant grid that is basically invisible. You can toggle it so that it doesn't snap to that grid anymore, and that's nice if you're super anal like me and you want to put this card right next to this, board, instead of it kind of snapping a little bit of ways. So those are some basics. I think TTS is a really powerful and interesting tool. I think companies should get behind supporting it, and I think if you're putting a game out in 2021 on Kickstarter, you really should throw it up on TTS, because the days of blind buying these games are largely over. There's so much coverage out there that, and a lot of the coverage out there is done in TTS. Like Marvel United X-Men was a really annoying example of, they obviously have a TTS mod for this game because they played it on like Quackalope's channel and other channels, but they didn't release it to the public, at least as far as I'm aware. I don't know why you wouldn't do that. They should have done that, because then they would have gotten, not only would they have gotten way more coverage, because you don't have to have literally like Eric Lang sitting there with you to play it, which, not like a peon like me, I'm not going to get that guy on camera, But so not only would you just get way more coverage, but why not be transparent? You need to be, if you're a board game company, you need to be in a position in this day and age where you have enough confidence in your game that you can put it out there just in a limited fashion. This is limited. This is, to my understanding, is not the full. This is not the full book of campaign stuff. It's only got a couple of the missions in it, so it's not like it's going to entirely replace TTS, but it's going to just give people the chance to play it for themselves and experience what they're going to pay you for, instead of them just kind of having to rely on goodwill or your past performance. Just letting people try it out, I think, is a strong move. Now, there's a lot of kind of discussion about the morality of TTS, and I have seen channels. I even, back long before I launched this channel, I kind of popped on Quackalope's channel because he did a similar video where he was talking about TTS, and he was talking about kind of the morality of companies like deleting mods, or maybe not the morality of it, but just the sense of it, if it makes sense from a marketing perspective. And I think we're mostly in the same position, except that it kind of seemed like he was dictating that you have to create a TTS mod. I am not saying that. I'm saying it's a useful tool for sharing your game, and if you are confident in your game, you should consider leveraging it. But I don't think anybody has to use TTS. I think companies are 100% totally in the right to nuke an unauthorized TTS mod for a game, and I don't give a shit how much time somebody put into building it. Who cares? People put a lot of time into spinning up, private WoW servers too, World of Warcraft servers too, and those servers are illegal and got nuked. Same thing with, ROMs, for classic video games. I mean, these things are the intellectual property of the people who made them. It's not your intellectual property just because you went through and scanned all the cards and put them in TTS. So I am 100% on the side of creators can do whatever the hell they want with this stuff, but it's a good marketing tool. And personally, it has sold me on multi-$100 purchases, by being able to play them and verify that the game is not a pile of garbage, basically. That's all I have to say on that. Let's get into the gameplay, because that's what this is supposed to be. All right, so now we are going to start with our gameplay of Domianne's Tower, Adventure Tactics Domianne's Tower. So I've already basically set up the mission. We're doing Guard the Gate, which you can see right here. It says, a sizable goblin gang comes crashing through the gate. You recognize the leader, a cruel and battle-scarred goblin named Rigby. He snarls, "This is our village now. Best drop your valuables and flee while you can." So our objective is to defeat Rigby, and we have a bonus objective to defeat all of his kind of goblin buddies. And you've got kind of the enemy details here and the basic setup details. I've already basically done all this. So the way that it works is the enemies just activate off of the deck. The initiative token, at least in this TTS mod, will say boss on it, but it really means enemies, basically, because the way it works is you draw a card from the enemy deck, and that dictates what happens on that turn. And so it'll tell you, like, activate all the goblin archers, and Rigby moves 6 places, or whatever. So just bear that in mind. I'm going to shuffle these up just to make sure that I don't forget to do that. So I've got my characters set up. This is the first mission, so I basically don't have anything going on here that's out of the ordinary. I've got my deck of cards. I need to shuffle those up. And just in terms of basic setup, you've got your player board, you pick a class. This tells you the kind of die you roll. This tells you the range of the attack. So 1 is literally 1 space away. So if you're here, you can hit Rigby there. That's 1 space. There's no 0 space like in Zombicide or something like that. This tells you what your movement value is. This is a class feature. So you can use this to basically to heal yourself. So as a free action, because of the star, you can remove this card to heal yourself for the value of 1 red die. Or you can do it as a response, as a reaction to attack. Remove this card and heal. 10 hit points. The class card tells you the starting hit points, you can see here, but it also tells you that you start with a passive called Tough, which I have here, which gives you 3 max hit points, total of 10. And then it tells you what cards you add to the deck. So the deck always starts with 3 basic attack and 3 basic move, and then you add the cards for your particular class. And so this is the main way that, like, when you're cross-classing, this is how that manifests, because you're going to add another one, you're going to grab another one of these cards for, like, for example, these might not be the best. I think that these are like advanced classes maybe. Well, let's just say that my fighter wants to cross-class into mage. They would take the kind of level 1 mage card, and it may be the level 2 mage card. I'll have to think about that. And then they would add these spells to their deck. And so now you'd have all the cards from the fighter deck and all the cards from the mage deck. So anyways, I've set up the rest of the decks as such, and the bad guys are on the board. You can see here based off of the... And bear in mind, I've never taped this before, so I don't know if I'm moving around too quick. I'll try and keep that in mind. I'm trying to show that it's very responsive, you know, and you can kind of zoom around the board, but I don't want to be kind of giving people motion sickness. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add an object real quick. I'm going to go into my objects. I'm going to look at my saved objects, and I am going to get my dice tray. I have a little kind of virtual dice tray that I've created in the past, or found. I didn't create this. I found it and saved it, basically. And then I'm going to scale it up, because I've found in the past that when you roll into this thing, if it's not huge, the dice will just kind of go flying out. And you can see now, I can't move it right now. That's because it defaults to locked. So I'm going to unlock it, and then I'm going to pick it up. I'm just going to kind of center it a little bit. I'm going to grab all my dice. Make sure I don't want to get the dice. And I'm just going to move them down here so that they're ready to go. And then when I'm actually going to play, you know, I'm going to pick them up and I'm going to roll them into this die. I'm going to scale this up just a little bit more. And then I'm going to lock it again so that the dice don't go flying out. So when I go to roll, I'm going to do that. Pretty cool, huh? I really like this TTS. It's pretty cool, and I was very nervous about it. I really wasn't into it. My friends were using it all throughout the pandemic, and I don't know, I had some kind of mental block where I just couldn't buy into it. But I'm all in now. So we have our setup. So we need to place our characters within the yellow grids here, so the first 3 spots here. And so Roberta's my fighter, so I'm going to want to get her... I'm going to put her like right here. I'm going to have her like ready to go. My wizard is probably going to want to... He's a little squishier. I'm going to have him back a little bit. And my cleric... Healing Prayer, Divine Flames. She's kind of a caster as well, so maybe I'll have her back a little bit as well. So we're going to start there. In terms of the gameplay, the round sequence is pretty simple. You're going to draw cards from your deck, which is going to represent the actions, or at least some of the actions that you can take on your turn. Then you're going to draw out the initiative cards, just as I just showed you earlier. Then you're going to activate an initiative order, and then you're going to clean up. So you're going to take all your cards back, and you're going to decide which cards you want to keep, and then draw back up to 4. So the first thing we do is we draw cards. Start your turn by drawing cards from your action deck until you reach your maximum hand size, which is typically 4. And you can mulligan your whole hand. So, and it can only be done one time and at the beginning of the initiative or the game. So I'm going to draw 1, 2, 3, 4, and you know, like I would like to have a little more room here. So maybe I'm going to grab this stuff and kind of, no, of my way so that I can move this dice tray a little bit. And then I can lay out my fighters cards as well. And so F flips your card, and so I'm going to flip my 4 cards so that you can see what actions I'll have available to me this round. So the fighter is going to be able to make a basic move in one direction and move through characters. Typically, you can't move through enemies. You can move through good guys, or through allies, but not enemies. And so this is going to let you move through enemies. And then she's just got a basic attack and basic move and a basic attack. I'm fine with this. I think that that's fine. I don't really know enough about the game to know if, you know, it's worth mulliganing this or whatever. And so I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm just going to take 1, 2, 3, kind of spread them out a little bit. And the really cool thing too is, you know, you can also scale all this stuff. So like if I felt like these cards were just unusually or unnecessarily huge, I could scale them down. Or scale them back up, whatever. It just gives you a lot of flexibility that it's interesting because I would never have thought that there would be improvements to playing in TTS, but that some of these things like the ability to clone objects, scale objects, change the color state of objects are definitely kind of upgrades over playing you know, with the physical copy. And I'm just remembering, and you may have noticed that I have my camera on now, so you totally just saw me kind of scratch my ear or dig in my ear, but I don't care, whatever. All right, basic attack, basic move, basic attack, exchange positions with another player in range. Like, I don't love this, so maybe I will mulligan this. So let's see how the mulligan works. After you draw your initial hand, you may choose to reshuffle this hand into your action deck and draw a new hand of cards. Okay, so you just grab all these, flip them, drop them back into the deck, move the deck up a little bit, shuffle the deck, and then draw 4 more. I was hoping for like something cool like Fireball. There it is. Cool. And then for the cleric, 1, 2, 3, 4. So she's got 2 healing prayers, which seems like a lot of healing. But it would be nice to have these in hand in case I need them. So I'm going to keep this. This is fine. All right. Then we take our initiative deck, we make sure it's shuffled, and then we just spread it out. Boop. So, all right, so first up is Quill, our cleric. So, Quill, what is Quill going to do? So she's got basic attack, healing prayer, basic move, healing prayer, guidance. At the end of your turn, you may move an adjacent player 1 square. Okay, interesting. And just so it's clear, the objective here is to beat Rigby. But Rigby kind of has some AI going on where the first time he reaches 7 or fewer hit points, he starts with, tells you right here, 15. So as soon as he reaches half health, he's going to summon more mobs, basically. I forget what this MG and RG, I guess that's their position on the board. He also has Vengeance. He heals a white die whenever a gang member or gang archer is defeated. And so what this means is that I don't necessarily want to try to blast Rigby down, right? Because he's just going to be summoning more guys. What I want to do is, and then when I kill those guys, he's going to be healing. So I don't want to spread my damage. What I want to do is focus fire the mobs, kill them, and then get Rigby down to half health. He'll summon the other mobs, and then I want to finish him off, basically, without killing any of the other mobs, because I don't want to have to deal with him kind of healing himself back and forth. So Roberta has a movement of 3, And she does have a basic attack that has a range of 1 to 3 with a white die. The white die, as I believe, is kind of the crappiest die, so she's not exactly your powerhouse attacker. If she moved 3, 1, 2, 3, yeah, she can't get into range to attack on a single turn either way. So maybe I should mulligan. What's the turn order? The bad guys are going to go next. And so I don't want to expose her. I really don't want to go rushing forward with my cleric necessarily. So I think what I'll do is... Oops. You know, TTS can be a little tricky in terms of you gotta... There's an element of trying to put miniatures right next to each other, and if you don't get it like perfect, then they smash into each other. And so what I'll often do to fix that is I'll just scale them down. So that they don't take up as much space. Okay. Ooh, I definitely want to lock this board. Do not want to be accidentally picking up the board. So she's going to discard a basic move card to move 3, but she's only actually going to move 1, I think. And then she's going to use her guidance to move an adjacent player 1 square. So she's just going to move the fighter up a little bit, just to get him a little bit closer, and it's really not going to change much in the sense that he's still up. He's still the closest up, so they're likely to target him. Just going to clean up her placement. I like everything to be like super cool, but you can see this is really cool because you can really get in there and look right at your minis and stuff and get like that 3D kind of feel to the experience, you know. You can see the cutouts and everything. I really do like Tabletop Simulator. So yeah, so I think that's going to be it for her activation, and I'm just going to flip these over to remind myself. This is really useful. You know, you'll find yourself, if you're like me, and you kind of have to hop in and out of games because your kids are wandering by or whatever, you'll find it's helpful to figure out ways to track where you are. You know, sometimes I'll duplicate some token that they gave me and use that. I'll like put it on, or I'll take all the dice and I'll put them on the guy who's going to activate next. In this case, they have this wonderful turn order initiative thing. So if you just flip over the card, you know that the boss is going to go next, even if you have to step away. So that is it for her activation, as far as I know. Take 2 actions or pass. You can choose the same action multiple times. Discard any number of cards from your hand to move. Yes, you can throw cards away to get extra movement, but you only get half of your basic movement. Yep. So now it's the bad guy's turn. So basically, if you hover over this and hold the button down, it's going to move the whole deck. If you just kind of quickly grab from it, it'll move just a single card. So Rigby's going to activate, the bad guys are going to activate, and it is lead from the front. Rigby moves to the closest character and makes a basic attack. Gang members make a basic attack if adjacent to a player, otherwise they move towards the closest player. So let's take a look at Rigby. Guard the gate. So let's verify, because it says move to the closest player. Each enemy will make a basic move up to their maximum movement points. They will move to the closest player. Okay. So I don't think this means that Rigby can just move an unlimited number of spaces. It just means he's going to move towards, really this means he'll move towards the closest character. Because he doesn't have unlimited movement. He has a movement value of 4. So he is going to move 1, 2, 3, 4. His attack is melee, so it only has a range of 1, and so he can't attack. And so that's going to finish his action. The gang members, which are, I want to say that you have gang members and gang archers. Yeah, gang members and gang archers. So he's going to activate this guy. Closest character, gang members make a basic attack if adjacent to a player, otherwise they move towards the closest player. And so this is a good example where I'm gonna duplicate some of these cards. I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna clone it, and I'm gonna put them up here so that I don't have to keep going back to the book, and so that I don't have to scroll halfway across the table here. Boop. So now I can see just at a glance. Gang members have a movement of 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's going to be it for the enemy turn. Flip it over. So now it is Elwyn the Mage's turn. So he's got Fireball, basic attack, basic move, and a basic attack. Fireball has a range of 4, and it rolls a blue die, and it's got this explosion on it, which means it's area of effect. So we will need to see how that plays out in this particular game. It's actually a little bit of annoying that you have to click through this. But you can see there's some cool elements that are getting added here where there'll be fire and stuff on the ground. This is another reason why this game to me just screams Dungeons and Lasers, because it's so simple. You can see, like, at least in this kind of a setup, there's no real terrain rules going on, and like this isn't different from this in terms of movement, and so you could easily build a custom kind of area and use real walls, real in the sense that they are pieces of plastic. But what I'm trying to see right now is how this area of effect stuff here works. Here they're talking about targeting. We'll get into that later if we need to. Area effect. Effects that specify an area effect apply to all characters within a certain distance from the target of that card. Size of the area is determined by counting the specified number of spaces in any direction, including diagonally from the target. All right. So I just want to see if they have an image of it, but to me that means that it's basically, the square area. Yeah, the Wizard's Fireball has a range of 1 and an area of effect of 1. The initial target must be within range 4 of the wizard, and then any other characters within range of 1 are also affected. So Fireball, range of 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm sure it says here. The effect is applied to any characters within this area. Note that the range of an effect and the size of its area do not have to be the same. So the question is, do I have to actually attack Rigby and hit him, or can I attack a square, basically, in the area? All characters that are within a certain distance from the target of that card. Choose a target within a specified range and roll the specified dice. So I suppose it would, you know, it's fireball, not like rain of fire or something like that. So I think it would make sense that he would have to target a specific character. And so in this scenario, if he hits Rigby with the fireball, it's going to hit all these spaces around him as well. But it doesn't look like I'll be able to hit both of them unless I can move one of them with another ability. It'd be nice if they had an image of this, but that's okay. So the initial target must be within range 4 of the wizard. Then any other character within range 1 of this target. See, they use the word character and target separate. I need to verify that. Let's see if it does this. So this is another kind of classic test of, did they put a lot of thought into this game? Because what I want to see is if there is a index. Doesn't look like there is. Index in your rulebook is, you know, it's 2021. This is kind of a must-have, as far as I'm concerned, at least. I'm going to go back and make sure that there isn't one kind of, you know, table of contents is not the same as an index, but let's go to state 17 and just look at attacks. Ah, it's the same page that was on. I think they use the word character here because I think you can actually do friendly fire with this. I think it explodes, and so it could hit your own guys. That's my assumption. So, fireball, basic attack, basic move, basic attack. Blink once per turn. You may use one square of movement to move diagonally. So he would have to move to be able to get into range. But remember, I don't want to attack Rigby. I want to attack this guy because when I kill her, Rigby will heal, and if Rigby has taken no damage, the heal will be irrelevant. So I'm going to use a basic move, and I'm going to move, and I'm going to use Blink. Once per turn, you may use one square movement to move diagonally. In terms of movement, if we go back a little bit, pretty sure they call out here. Yeah, you may move about the grids, but one square up, down, left, or right. You can't typically move diagonally. Blink allows me to. You don't have to use all your movement points, and you cannot move through other characters unless an ability allows you to do so. I was under the impression that you could move through friendly characters, but I might be wrong. Bosses and minions follow the same rules. So Melee Goblin MG has used a move action up to 5 squares from her original position. So from here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Golem, so this is large movement. Okay, but it specifically says you cannot move through other characters. Okay, so Rigby's going to move 1, 2, 2. How many movement points does he have? Yeah, he only has 3 movement points. So he's actually going to move 1, 2, 3. I could turn the snap to grid back on here. That might actually help. It is already snapped to grid. That's unusual. That's weird. It's fine. I guess maybe the grid actually isn't here. And then he's going to cast... Is there a reason to use Fireball instead of his regular attack? Is blue better than... I think the blue and the red dice are pretty comparable. I don't know that there's a compelling reason to use blue instead of red. Also, the Fireball really is for that AoE, so he's just going to do a basic attack. And so for that basic attack, he's got a range of 1 to 4, and he's going to roll a red die. So I'm going to grab a red die, I'm going to shake it up. And really, that didn't really seem like it rolled very well. I guess my dice tray is not quite big enough. There we got 4, or maybe I forgot to lock it. I did forget to lock it. All right, but whatever. We got, was it 4 or 5? Okay, I'm gonna roll this one more time. This is the final time I will be rolling this, and we get a 4. So we do 4 damage to this goblin right here, the melee one. And so we just come over here and we look at our little button. Again, you kind of gotta mess around with it to find it. She's got, because we have 3 players, that's what this represents, 3, 4, 5 players. So she's half dead. And that is the wizard's turn. Don't think I missed anything there. Nope. All right, so Roberta the Fighter is up next. So Roberta's got charge, letting her move through characters, and then basic attack and basic move. And this is really fun. Like, man, these guys played some Final Fantasy Tactics, let me tell you. Because you get your fighter, which is really like, I think it's called the Squire in Final Fantasy Tactics, because she comes with Rock Toss, which is like the most basic ability in Final Fantasy Tactics, where you can literally just pick up a rock and toss it as like a ranged attack. So I feel like there's some serious Final Fantasy Tactics fans out there. And it really just goes to show you that, like... There's no reason why Squaresoft couldn't have put out a Final Fantasy Tactics themed game. This game is literally a hair's breadth away from just being Final Fantasy Tactics, the board game. And you would think that either these guys could have reached out to Square and said, hey, we're making a game that is basically Final Fantasy Tactics, the board game. If we slap the Final Fantasy Tactics name on it, it will make 5 times as much money. Interested? And they just said no. Or maybe they were, afraid of... And I'm not trying to denigrate the game. I'm not trying to say that it's not cool, but it's just is all very similar to Final Fantasy Tactics to me. And either Square said no, or maybe the developers, were afraid that Square would go, hey, wait a minute, we own all that stuff. But it really does feel like Final Fantasy Tactics to me, and so I just thought it was funny that the fighter starts with the rock toss, which is definitely very Final Fantasy Tactics-y. But anyways, she's got a basic move and a basic attack. She's going to use her basic move. She's got a movement of 4. So she's going to move 1, 2, 3... Move right there. And then she's going to do her basic attack. Which, one spot away, and another red die. So... got a 5. The other thing you can do with these, if you want to, is... let's see, what's the roll? Yeah, you can just press the R button over them. And it'll roll it as well. I like rolling it and everything, but it doesn't seem to be working great with these dice for some reason. It worked really well in Arena of the Contest. They don't seem to be kind of bouncing around quite as much. But anyways, she rolled. She did 5 damage. This guy only has 4 damage left. So he is dead. We're going to pull his card off and put it there. And then that's going to trigger Rigby's special ability, Vengeance. And that actually that only happens on 4 to 5 player. So you can see here in the rulebook they kind of call out, there are certain things, they call out the kind of how you build the pool of enemies and such. And they also call out the special abilities. And so what I didn't notice here is that Vengeance is only for 4 to 5 players or 4 to 5 characters. It says Rigby heals a white die. So actually that didn't do anything in terms of Rigby. So, but either way, we got a bad guy out of the way. And now it's the bad guy's turn again. So we flip that over, pull another card. Minions on the move. Gang members move to the closest character and make basic attacks. Gang archers make a basic attack if a player is in range. Otherwise, they move towards the closest player. So the archers have a range of 4, which they're definitely not close enough, and they have a movement of 4. And so Rigby's not doing anything on this turn. The archer is just going to move. And I believe that they'll only move until they're in range with their basic attack, basically. This is really kind of annoying. I don't know that there's a button. I don't have change state hotkeyed. Okay, so but if we look here, we can see the gang member and archers, their behavior is they target the closest hero. So he's targeting Roberto, and he's moving towards him, and I'm pretty sure he's only going to move within range. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, so he's going to move to there, but he's not actually going to attack. And so that's it for this round. So grab your cards, group them up, shuffle them, shuffle, 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 shuffle. And now we go through the... It's on page 11. Yep, so we've drawn cards, determine initiative, player boss turns, and we do the cleanup. Let's review the cleanup real quick. Oh wait, here's where it specifies how they kind of move. Basic move up to their maximum movement points, move to the closest player. Yeah. I guess it doesn't actually speak to if they only move within range or what. Cleanup. During this phase, you may choose and discard one card from your hand. If you pass, you may discard your entire hand. Oh, okay, that's interesting. Also, unless otherwise specified, all conditions are removed during this phase. And yada, yada, yada. I'm going to lock this stupid thing so that it stops moving around and then stay back to 11. Alright. This is so annoying. Discard one card. Oh, it doesn't say anything about drawing back up. You know, I don't know that this is the greatest rulebook I've ever seen. Start your turn by drawing cards from your action deck. Oh, okay, so you start. I see. Okay. So I've got a basic attack and charge. I don't think I'm going to need this charge, to be honest. So I'm going to get rid of that. He's going to keep both of these because he's got 2 different kind of attack abilities. She's got her 2 healing prayers and a basic attack, so I like what she's got there. And so he's going to draw 3. Okay, a couple of rock tosses. And then another charge. Couple of moves, nothing wrong with that. And she just gets the 1 move. Nothing wrong with that either. And that's it. So that's the round, and then you get your initiative cards back out. And this time Roberta's going first. So Roberta's got Rock Toss and a basic attack, a white die, range 3. One question I have is, does that mean range 1 to 3 or literally 3, as in they have to be 3 spaces away? Targeting and range. I thought I locked this stupid thing. That should stop it from getting picked up like that. Okay. Each such attack will specify a number, that's its range. A square is in range of you if it is in your line of sight and the distance between you and that square is not greater than its range. Any square in range is a valid target for that ability, so an ability with range 4 can apply to characters who are up to 4 squares away from you. Okay. Perfect. Yeah, and they even use Roberta's, they use her as a Dark Knight as an example here. So Roberta is probably going to try to attack twice. I don't love that she'll have to use Rock Toss instead of kind of her more powerful attack, because Rock Toss just has a white die, and her normal attack is red, and like I said, white is not as strong as red. But otherwise I'd have to use Charge or throw a card away basically to move. So I'm just going to do 2 Rock Tosses. And so I'm going to take my 2 white dice, separate them out a little bit. 4 damage. He doesn't have any kind of armor or anything like that. I don't even know if that's a thing. So she's obviously she's attacking Rigby. So she does 4 damage to him. And that's it for her activation. So you can see it's very streamlined in the gameplay. This is very kind of simplistic. It does get more complicated because there's weapons and armor and such that you can equip and passive abilities, but I think the core gameplay loop is pretty basic, and it's really the class system where it shines, where you're getting all this crazy customization that, you know, while it's extensively customizable, it's not onerous in the sense of like all these cards and tokens and such. It seems like it would be pretty streamlined because you're basically just adding cards to your deck, maybe getting a new passive ability and such. And so the core gameplay loop can basically stay the same. And then obviously the monster activations and such, this is the very first mission, so these will get considerably more complex as well, and there'll be terrain on the board and such. But the basic flow of the game is actually, it seems like it's pretty chill. So that's it for her. Now the bosses go. Need a card from Rigby's deck. I like too that the enemy AI is all just in this one deck. This is really nice. You know, there are games like Sword and Sorcery where they're really trying to build out some pretty complicated AI. And so each enemy type has their own freaking huge AI card that you have to go through and figure, okay, this guy's gonna... And it's really cool, and I really like that game. But, man, it's a lot of overhead, like, in terms of rules, to figure out, like, what the hell these people do and when they do it and so forth. This is very streamlined. You just have a deck of cards, you draw one, tells you exactly kind of how to move them. So lead from the front. Rigby moves to the closest character and makes a basic attack. So that is the first thing that happens. So he's going to move 1, 2. I suppose he would probably move there so he's not blocking, potentially blocking line of sight. I don't think friendly characters block line of sight, but either way, I think we would basically move right there. Or maybe even right here. The question is adjacency. I don't know that I saw them. Okay, characters adjacent to you if it's in one space in any direction, including diagonally. Yeah, so he'd just move right there. And he's just going to do his basic attack. His basic attack is a white die. So you can kind of grab this thing while it's in air and reflip it. That was, okay, whatever. This is just for game, I'm just trying to show the game off. So he does 2 damage to Roberta. Roberta, nothing in terms of like defense or anything like that. She could heal. I don't really see a reason to do that. So she's going to go down to 8 damage. Gang members make a basic attack. There are no gang members on the board, and so that's it for the bad guys. Next up, you've got Quill. Quill's got her 2 heal spells, basic move, and a basic attack. Wait, why does Quill have 5? She doesn't. This is, I could spread this out a little bit more. Because I'm conflating his... Is this locked? No? I'm going to move her deck and just spread this out because I right there I confused his discard pile with her ability pile, or hand. Basic move, healing prayer, basic attack. Anything. She's got soothing balm. And it doesn't say anything about it being, I don't know if you have to discard that. See, his show that they get removed. I'm assuming that healing balm is just like a basic ability that she can use more than once. What's the range on her attack? 1 to 3. She is right here. So 1, 2, 3. See, she's not close enough to attack him anyways, and so she's gonna do her basic move. Her deck right back there. She'll move. Right to there. 1, 2, 3. And do a basic attack, rolling a white die. Three damage. And that does trigger Rigby's passive ability, Signal Flare. First time Rigby reaches 7 or fewer, add 1 gang member and 1 gang archer to the encounter. And it shows you where they go, MG3 and RG3. So we got the gang member, he's showing up right there. And a gang archer. See, what they'll do in TTS is they'll give you like these bags that have like all this stuff in them, basically, which is pretty cool. We are in, and then you can search the bag and find what you're looking for. So I'm going to pull this out of here. I don't know what this is. I am on 1B, right? I'm on 1A. Okay, that's why I have no idea what the hell that is, because it was the deck. And then you can just kind of hover over. You kind of have to get it just right. I'm just pulling out a different. I could easily just have cloned the other one, but I figure I'll just pull a different one out. And then this character. When you're holding an object like that, if you use the Q and E, you can kind of orient it. And then I'm going to need a separate health tracker for that bad guy, so I'm just going to clone this and put it right here. And I'll toggle. Maybe I'll try me change the color tint to the base so that I know who I'm talking about here. Yeah. And then I'm going to clone this so that I know that she is the red one. If that makes sense. See, this is cool kind of stuff you can do in TTS. I don't know, maybe other people don't need this, but I lose track of all this crap as I'm going. All right. So that's it. And then she moved and she attacked. So her turn's over. You can see there, it's a little sticky sometimes in terms of if you have something selected and then you select something else, you got to click around on the board to release the previous item. Okay, so next up, we've got our wizard. I have a feeling Rigby is going down because he's got fireball and he's got a basic attack. So, and I believe he is already within range, 1 to 4. 1, 2, 3. So this is interesting because we may need to draw line of sight, and I suppose that we would have in the last turn too. So let's take a quick look at the line of sight rules. This may have been back, but I think it probably was. Let's go back to 12. Man, oh man, do I wish this had the little arrows to flip this damn thing. Here we go. Line of sight determined by counting number of squares. Can be done diagonally. Draw a straight line from one corner of the square to another corner. Line cannot be interrupted by walls or enemies, but it can be interrupted by other heroes. Walls and enemies block line of sight, but other heroes do not. So he totally has line of sight to him. 1, 2, 3. And so Rigby is going down. Basic attack. Rolls a red die. I think you can even, yeah, you can set like the rotational value, which I think affects how much it rolls when you roll it. 5 damage. He's got 15 hit points. And then he's also going to do his fireball, which will hit Roberta, but I'm pretty sure there's friendly fire. I think that's why they used the turn character instead of, target. But I don't care because this is going to finish Rigby off. So this 4 more damage. These buttons are a little finicky. It's like a very specific spot you gotta click. So, Rigby is... That was not Rigby. Rigby is dead. And he also would take some damage, I believe. Again, I need to take a quick look and just see if there's friendly fire. It really doesn't matter in this case because, again, the mission is over. Single roll is made regardless how many targets are affected. They really should have some examples and they should specify that friendly fire is a thing, but I think it is. So she would have taken 5 more damage. But who cares? Because Rigby is down. So we win. Yay! Okay. So, do not turn this page until you have completed. We have completed because the objective was to defeat Rigby. We didn't get the bonus objective, but that's okay. And now we go to the resolution. Resolution, success. Heroes receive the following from the supply loot. 1, 2, or 3 items randomly selected from Rigby's sword, shield, or hauberk, depending on the hero count. So 1 item from Rigby Remaining loot items are placed into the market. Okay, gain some basic items. 1 bag of gold, 1 sewer key. I don't really know what all this iconography means, but I could go through the world book, I assume. Place from blah, 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 blah. Oh, okay, this is interesting. From supply items into the market, the encrypted note. And we didn't get the plus success. And then so, you know, I'm not going to worry about the loot, but I do look at the I want to see if I can find the leveling up system, because that's pretty cool. Leveling up and changing classes. So that's on page 22. After concluding certain encounters, you and your party will be able to level up. These encounters will say all players advance 1 level. Ah, that's a bummer. So this one doesn't. Oh yeah, all players advance 1 level. Okay, great. When leveling up, you must choose 1 level up card. This chosen card can be the first card of a new basic class deck, or it can come from any basic or elite class deck for which you meet the class requirements. In this way, you get to choose to develop your current class or pursue new classes. Some level up will instruct you to add or replace new action cards to your deck. If it says add, then the specified cards are simply added to your action deck. If it says replace, then you may also choose to remove a card from your deck for each card you add. The first time a card is chosen out of a new class deck, that class is considered unlocked. Elite classes can only be unlocked for 1 player. If 1 player has chosen a card from an elite class deck, no other player can choose cards from that deck. So you can't have 2 samurai or whatever, 2 dark knights. You just have 1. You can always choose cards from a basic class deck when leveling up, but keep in mind that there are class limits here too. No more than 2 players may be at level 2 or higher in any basic class, and no more than 1 player may be level 3 or higher in any one basic class. This is a little finicky. I hope that there's like some kind of guidance to that on the cards maybe, because otherwise you're going to have to kind of look at this page too. And there's no, I didn't see any like quick guide or whatever, which is another thing. You should always have an index, and you should always have a 1 sheet at the very least, or at least on the back of the book. I mean, I don't like it when it's on the back of the book, but it's better than nothing. Because all you're doing is just making your fans make it anyways with just kind of shittier, it's just going to be like a piece of paper basically on BGG instead of having all the cool art and everything. So take the time, do it yourselves. It's not a big deal. Yeah. You can have level up cards from multiple classes, including multiple elite classes. You choose to add a basic move or a basic attack or remove. All right, so let's take a look here. So first of all, let's so we've completed the mission. Let's get all our cards kind of back together for our decks. And so we've got a fighter, a wizard, and a cleric. Now, I believe that they're supposed to be, so the other level. Oh, okay, I see. So if you're cross-classing into a fighter, you don't get the starter card. I don't know, where the hell did that card just go? That was weird. You get the level 1 card. Which is not the same. It does give you a bunch of hit points, but it only gives you 1 rock toss and 1 charge instead of the ones that the kind of main class gets. So if she just goes to a level 2 fighter, she gets 2 Mighty Strike. I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is. They have See, I don't see the basic classes there. And it's not in that deck. Oh, okay, right. I think they're over here. And they are not in any kind of order, which is unfortunate. Is there no identifier here on what class it's associated to? Yeah, that's really annoying too, although I guess maybe it's necessary. This probably wouldn't be as big a deal, you know, if you weren't in TTS, but... So I'm trying to find Mighty Strike here. They're just numbered, so... And you can't search by... Yeah, this is really annoying. I don't know if I'm going to bother doing that. So kind of a TTS fail, but not... You know, I don't all of a sudden hate this game. I just don't want to have to. You can do that, but then cards are just flying off the edge. I'll go ahead. How about I go ahead and undo that? Maybe it didn't work. No. Yeah, I don't know how the hell to find these cards in there. You'd have to like pull them out one by one. Okay, so there's Mighty Strike. Maybe they are in some kind of order. So it does you roll 2 red dice and the target is slowed. And do you get, did I read that you get 2 of those? Very nice. What is this +5? I mean that she gets 5 more hit points. Class consider unlocked. Kind of doesn't say anything about like the hit points. I'm just basically trying to, okay, hit point gain. Barbarian. Oh, okay, so, you know, for her, I probably would go, maybe I'm going to go towards a Barbarian because I just need to have a fighter of 2. Fighter level 2. And so, if we look at the Barbarian here, so once you get this elite class, I think these are called, you're going to replace your character card with this, right? So you're going to have a different die value and a new deck of cards and everything, and you're going to get this card, which is going to give you your +4. Although that's Barbarian number 3, and you would want that one. Flesh Wound, and you get a dice ability called Rage. And so on and so forth, and so you're flipping between classes, and I don't want to get too much into the minutia of this, but that's how it would work, basically. So, like, for her, I probably would just go ahead and... for this first round at least, level her up to Fighter 2. And so I would kind of pull, put this on top. And then she would get the 2 Mighty Strike, and you can see I can add or remove, so I can pull some cards out. So, you know, I might look at this and say, you know, I don't love that charge ability, so maybe I don't want it diluting my deck anymore. So I could put it back into her kind of bag over here. Although, again, because I move some of this stuff around, TTS isn't quite kind of working the way it's supposed to. But you would usually have, I believe it's like a little tuck box. And so maybe I throw that back into the tuck box, but I take the 2 Mighty Strikes and I add those. So I'm kind of removing a little bit of movement and adding some damage. Anywho, that's how it would work. So overall, pretty cool, pretty simplistic, at least in the first kind of scenario. But simple's not always bad. Arena of the Contest is simple too, but they build the complexity into the like your base game for this Arena of the Contest. Even Chronicles of Drunagor, the core of the gameplay loop in that game is very streamlined and kind of easy to understand. And then it's at the scenario level and with, the particular abilities, the terrain, special effects for that scenario, that's where the complexity comes in. And in this game in particular, it also comes in through the class kind of manipulation. So you can see here what you have is an escort quest, Childbearer, for the next quest. So you gotta help this Childbearer make it back to town or whatever with the child in tow. And so here's all your setup, and you can see it gets considerably more complicated. You have now passive abilities for your monsters and such. And yeah, so very cool. I like this game. I'm still on the fence if I want to back it or not. I do think it's overpriced, particularly on Kickstarter. It's not as bad if you buy it from, like, I think I saw it on Card House for $59.99. On Kickstarter, they want to charge $90 for the base game. I have to look a little bit more and see because there are some extra stuff. There is some extra stuff there. This is the second edition that's on Kickstarter, so it has a bunch of updated stuff. The updates only cost $10 on Kickstarter if you just buy those. And there may be, there are the side quest books that come with the Kickstarter pledge. I don't know if those are in the core game, and I might want those too. But a $30 difference is a pretty big difference. What I might do is buy the core game first edition from Card House or someplace like that for $60. Back the Kickstarter for just the expansion and the playmats maybe, and then kind of not just diffuse my cost, but also diffuse, shipment. I can get the first edition in a week instead of in a year. And then just upgrade it to the second edition when that stuff comes, which is mostly like standees and a cool new die and stuff. And so spread it out that way. But I do like the core concept. I think it is simple enough to play with a kid. So for Grumpy and Son, this would be interesting. And a kid the art style would appeal to a child too. To my son, he would love these cutesy kind of standees. It would be really hard to sell me on the miniatures for this, I think, unless I knew that it was Lazy Squire Games or somebody where they're going to put out some seriously badass miniatures. For this game, the standees are pretty cute and colorful. This kind of art works really well in a standee, whereas something a little more realistic, you do feel like you're kind of slumming it if you have just the standees. But this works well, and so I think I would probably just stick with the standee version because the minis at a considerable cost. But that's it. That's my TTS playthrough of Adventure Tactics Domianne's Tower. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you like kind of seeing me play on TTS. Let me know if you like seeing my dumb face in the bottom of the screen instead of me just hiding. Trying some new things here. So, yeah, just always trying to learn, always trying to kind of expand my horizons a little bit. And if you do like this TTS thing, then there's all sorts of cool stuff we could do with that. We could do community gameplay sessions. We could get a couple people together and play this demo. Or we could play Arena of the Contest. I could show you all the cool 3D terrain that I use in the TTS version of Arena of the Contest to make it look like the expanded version of the base game, because there's a bonus box you can buy with that game that comes with walls and stuff. So let me know what you think, and other than that, I think I am pretty much done here. Thanks for tuning in, and I will talk to you later.